Chapter 15. Through the Maw. The hum of energy crackled faintly in the cockpit of the Starlight Voyager, a stubborn pulse matching the ship's uneven rhythm as it powered through the last stretch of empty space. Every system was strained, a reminder of the bare-bones repairs and sacrifices that had brought them this far. Shadows flickered over the tight quarters as the asteroid base and its faint safety faded behind them, replaced by the unforgiving expanse of Vardis's orbital patrols looming on the radar. John sat at the helm, eyes darting over the monitors, calculating every remaining maneuver. This wasn't the kind of mission where luck would cover their tracks. They'd need every tool, every ounce of skill to slip through unnoticed. Nearby, Alara's metal limbs deftly adjusted the controls, her synthesizers working to stabilize the jamming field despite the ship's groans of protest. Seated across from him, Erika watched Lucas, bound and silent beside her. He looked barely present, his shoulders slumped, his hair obscuring his face. Even bound as he was, he seemed weighed down, hollow. She reached over, resting a gentle hand on his arm, channeling the familiar warmth of her fire magic to him, a soft spark in the silence. "Lucas," she said, her voice low, threading a note of reassurance through the words. "This is dangerous, but we're in this together. Whatever you've been through, we're here now." Slowly, he turned toward her, recognition flickering faintly in his eyes. His gaze lifted, still shadowed but finding something in her words. She tightened her hand around his, the warmth of her magic sending a rush of ease into his exhausted body, and for a moment he seemed almost steady. "Listen," John's voice interrupted from the helm, calm but edged with urgency. "Vardis isn't the kind of place you walk in and out of. We're landing deep, where it's quiet, because the Empire's patrols aren't the only things out here that hunt strangers." His eyes flicked over to Lucas. "But we're close. Just keep steady. We've done worse." Lucas's fingers tensed, barely flexing under his restraints as he listened, understanding just enough. He knew this mission was only a step, a necessary one, and one he needed to take. The thought of Mina lingered somewhere in his mind, distant but potent, a sliver of hope that guided him forward. One more step closer. Alara's voice cut through his thoughts. "Jamming initialized, Captain," she reported, her synthesized tone steady but strained. "Imperial frequencies remain fortified against jamming. Our windows for undetected movement will be brief." Erika exchanged a glance with John, then turned her focus back to Lucas. "If anyone comes too close, I'll take care of it," she murmured, her fingers tracing a faint ember in the air. "But Lucas, your powers would give us the edge we need, if you can manage it." Lucas's face shifted, shadows of his past self sparking briefly before they vanished. Erika's hand remained on his wrist, steady, the ember glow of her magic flickering across his face. He nodded almost imperceptibly, and a faint grimace of determination crossed his face. John spared one last glance at Lucas before loosening his restraints. Erika leaned closer, her touch lingering on his shoulder, a silent promise. "We're here for you," she whispered, letting the embers of her warmth sink deeper. The Imperial border loomed closer on the radar. John tightened his grip, nudging the ship's trajectory carefully. "Everyone hold tight," he called, adjusting course for the narrowest opening he could find between patrol paths. As they approached the planetary line, the ship's jamming field crackled against Imperial interference. Erika braced herself as Lucas concentrated, his breathing shallow. Reaching out with his mind, he extended a fractured pulse through the Imperial signals. For a moment, their sensors blinked off, one Imperial ship thrown briefly into a scramble. Seizing the chance, John guided the Starlight Voyager into a low descent. Feeling the strain on every lever and gear as they pushed through the atmosphere, a distant shudder in the ship's frame as something beneath them ground against its housing. "Erika, if they catch on..." She reacted instantly, her fire flaring in brief arcs to disable the sensors trailing them. Sparks crackled from her palms, her magic pushing back the surveillance systems as they edged forward. Lucas slumped, his head against the seat as his effort ebbed, but the tension in his shoulders remained. John's jaw tightened as he fought to steady their descent, the jungle canopy rising below them in dark greens and ominous shadows. A last lurch shook the ship, and the controls went hot in his hands as he maneuvered through the foliage. "Brace!" he shouted, guiding them toward a hidden clearing. They came down hard, the Starlight Voyager scraping over thick branches and dense foliage as it ground to a halt. The engine sputtered once, a dull whine that faded into silence. John exhaled, casting a glance toward the others as he steadied himself. Through the cockpit windows, Erika saw the vast jungles of Vardis stretching out around them, lush and ominously quiet. She caught John's eye, a shared understanding passing between them. They'd made it, but just barely. Lucas, even in his exhaustion, managed a faint nod, his gaze falling on the dense undergrowth, as though sensing the presence of more than just Imperial eyes watching them.